Hey guys, in this month's Historical Fiction 101, I'm going to be going through all of the nominees on the Goodreads Historical Fiction category. So you guys, as Goodreads always does every year, they have categories that you can vote on for your favorite books in whatever genre of your choosing. And of course, I always look forward to the historical fiction category. And that's pretty much all I'm going to be doing in this video, you guys. I'm just going to be going through each of the 20 nominees, reading the synopsises, because there's quite a few of these books on here I have no idea what they're even about. I've not even heard of. So I'm excited to kind of go through this video and discover myself what some of these books are. And yeah, I don't think I've read a single book on this list. Yeah, guys, there's several on the list that I do own the books, but yeah, there is nothing on there that I have actually read. I don't think that I recall. It's like, am I reading the wrong historical fiction, or is Goodreads just nominating all sorts of random weird stuff? I don't know. So yeah, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be going through all of the nominees, and I'm going to be looking at my computer. I'm going to be looking down kind of at the computer, reading all the synopsises if my eyes are not looking up here at the camera. And yeah, at the time of filming this video, the winner has not been announced at all. So yeah, by the time this video goes up, maybe it has been announced. I don't know. So yeah, guys, let's get going. First up, CARRIE SOTO is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. CARRIE SOTO is fierce, and her determination to win at any cost has not made her popular. But by the time she retires from tennis, she is the best player the world has ever seen. She has shattered every record and claimed 20 Grand Slam titles. And if you ask CARRIE, she is entitled to every one. She sacrificed nearly everything to become the best, with her father, Javier, as her coach. A former champion himself, Javier has trained her since the age of 2. But 6 years after her retirement, CARRIE finds herself sitting in the stands of the 1994 U.S. Open, watching her record be taken from her by a brutal, stunning player named Nikki Chan. At 37 years old, CARRIE makes the monumental decision to come out of retirement and be coached by her father for one last year in an attempt to reclaim her record, even if the sports media says that they never liked the battle axe anyway. Even if her body doesn't move as fast as it did, and even if that means swallowing her pride to train with a man she once almost opened her heart to, Bo Huntley. Like her, he has something to prove before he gives up the game forever. Hester Lori Lico Albanese. Isabel Gamble is a young seamstress carrying generations of secrets when she sets sail from Scotland in the early 1800s with her husband, Edward. An apothecary who has fallen under the spell of opium, his pile of debts have forced him to flee Edinburgh for a fresh start in the new world. But only days after they've arrived in Salem, Edward abruptly joins a departing ship as a medic, leaving Isabel penniless and alone in a strange country, forced to make her way by any means possible. When she meets a young Nathaniel Hawthorne, the two are instantly drawn to each other. He is a man haunted by his ancestors, who set innocent women to the gallows, which is true, you guys, while she is an unusually gifted needleworker, troubled by her own strange talents. As the weeks pass and Edward's safe return grows increasingly unlikely, Nathaniel and Isabel grow closer and closer. Together, they are a muse and a dark storyteller, the enchanter and the enchanted, but which is which? So yeah, if you kind of can't tell, this is kind of like, sort of like where Nathaniel Hawthorne gets his inspiration for the Scarlet Letter, yeah, guys, and I just absolutely freaking love the Scarlet Letter. And yeah, I do own this book, but have not read it yet. I'm really looking forward to it. Memphis by Tara M. Stringfellow. In the summer of 1995, 10-year-old Joan, her mother, and her younger sister flee her father's violence, seeking refuge at her mother's ancestral home in Memphis. Half a century ago, Joan's grandfather built this majestic house in the historic black neighborhood of Douglas, only to be lynched days after becoming the first black detective in Memphis. This wasn't the first time violence altered the course of Joan's family's trajectory, and she knows it won't be the last. Longing to become an artist, Joan pours her rage and grief into sketching portraits of the women of North Memphis, including their enigmatic neighbor, Miss Dawn, who seems to know something about curses. Ooh. Violetta by Isabel Allende. Violetta comes into the world on a stormy day in 1920, the first girl in a family of 5 boisterous sons. From the start, her life will be marked by extraordinary events, for the ripples of the Great War are still being felt, even as the Spanish flu arrives on the shores of her South American homeland almost at the moment of her birth. Through her father's no, through her father's prescience, the family will come through that crisis unscathed, only to face a new one as the Great Depression transforms the genteel city life she has known. Her family loses all and is forced to retreat to a wild, beautiful, but remote part of the country. There she will come of age, and her first suitor will come calling. Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu. It is 1938 in China, and as a young wife, um, Mylan, you guys? Mylan's future is bright, but with the Japanese army approaching, Mylan and her 4-year-old son, Renshu, are forced to flee their home. Relying on little but their wits and a beautifully illustrated hand scroll filled with ancient fables that offer solace and wisdom, they must travel through a ravaged country seeking refuge. Years later, Renshu has settled in America as Henry Dow. Though his daughter is desperate to understand her heritage, he refuses to talk about his childhood. How can he keep his family safe in this new land when the weight of his history threatens to drag them down? Yet how can Lily learn who she is if she can never know her family's story? Ooh, this sounds good. I need to get this. This sounds good. Take My Hand by Dolan Perkins Valdez. Montgomery, Alabama, 1973. Fresh out of nursing school, Sybil Townsend has big plans to make a difference, especially in her African American community. At the Montgomery Family Planning Clinic, she intends to help women make their own choices for their lives and bodies. But when her first week on the job takes her down a dusty country road to a worn-down one-room cabin, she's shocked to learn that her new patients are children, just 11 and 13 years old. Neither of the Williams sisters has ever kissed a boy, but they are poor and black, and for those handling the family's welfare benefits, that reason's enough to have the girls on birth control. As Sybil grapples with her role, she takes India, Erica, and their family into her heart, until one day she arrives at the door to learn the unthinkable has happened and nothing will ever be the same for any of them. Decades later, with her daughter grown and a long career in her wake, Dr. Sybil Townsend is ready to retire, to find her place and to leave the past behind. But there are people and stories that refuse to be forgotten that must never be forgotten. The Bookwoman's Daughter by Kim Michelle Richardson. In the ruggedness of the beautiful Kentucky mountains, Honey Lovett has always known that the old ways can make a hard life harder. As the daughter of the famed blue-skinned Troublesome Creek packhorse librarian, Honey and her family have been hiding from the law all her life. But when her mother and father are imprisoned, Honey realizes she must fight to stay free or risk being sent away for good. Picking up her mother's old packhorse library route, Honey begins to deliver books to the remote what? Hollers of Appalachia. Honey is looking to prove that she doesn't need anyone telling her how to survive, but the route can be treacherous, and some folks aren't as keen to let a woman pave her own way. If Honey wants to bring the freedom that books provide to the families who need it most, she's going to have to fight for her place, and along the way, learn that the extraordinary women who run the hills and hollers can make all the difference in the world. I don't know what a holler is. I feel like I need to Google that. Black Cake by CHARMAINE Wilkerson. In present-day California, Eleanor Bennett's death leaves behind a puzzling inheritance for her two children, Byron and Benny. A black cake made from a family recipe with a long history, and a voice recording. In her message, Eleanor shares a tumultuous story about a headstrong young swimmer who escapes her island home under suspicion of murder. Ooh. The heartbreaking tale Eleanor unfolds, the secrets she still holds back, and the mystery of a long-lost child challenge everything the siblings thought they knew about their lineage and themselves. Ooh. The Last Rose of Shanghai by Wina Day Randall. 1940. Hold on, guys. I need new glasses. Seriously, I need new glasses. My screen is like so far away from me, and I can't see. Okay, 1940. Ai Xiao. Guys, I'm sorry. Ai Xiao is a young heiress and the owner of a formerly popular and glamorous Shanghai nightclub. Ernest Reisman is a penniless Jewish refuge driven out of Germany, an outsider searching for shelter in a city wary of strangers. He loses nearly all hope until he crosses paths with Ai, when she hires Ernest to play piano at her club. Her defiance of custom causes a sensation. His instant fame makes Ai's club once again the hottest spot in Shanghai. Soon they realize they share more than a passion for jazz, but their differences seem insurmountable, and Ai is engaged to another man. As the war escalates, Ai and Ernest find themselves torn apart, and their choices between love and survival grow more desperate. In the face of overwhelming odds, a chain of events is set in motion that will change both their lives forever. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Chemist Elizabeth Zott is not your average woman. In fact, Elizabeth Zott would be the first to point out that there's no such thing as an average woman. But it's the early 1960s, and her all-male team at Hastings Research Institute takes a very unscientific view of equality, except for one, Calvin Evans, the lonely, brilliant Nobel Prize nominated grudge holder who falls in love with, of all things, her mind. True chemistry results. But like science, life is unpredictable, which is why a few years later, Elizabeth Zott finds herself not only a single mother, but the reluctant star of America's most beloved cooking show, Supper at 6. Elizabeth's unusual approach to cooking proves revolutionary, but as her following grows, not everyone is happy, because as it turns out, Elizabeth Zott isn't just teaching women to cook, she's daring them to change the status quo. How does one go from being a chemist to cooking on a food show? That's what I want to know. Shrines of Gaiety by Kate Atkinson, 1926. And in a country still recovering from the Great War, London has become the focus for a delirious new nightlife. In the clubs of Soho, peers of the realm rub shoulders with starlets, foreign dignitaries with gangsters, and girls sell dances for a shilling a time. The notorious queen of this glittering world is Nellie Coker, ruthless but also ambitious to advance her 6 children, including the enigmatic eldest Niven, whose character has been forged in the crucible of the Somme. But success breeds enemies, and Nellie's empire faces threats from without and within. For beneath the dazzle of Soho's gaiety, there is a dark underbelly, a world in which it is all too easy to become lost. Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. Growing up in a housing estate in Glasgow, Mungo and James are born under different stars, Mungo a Protestant and James a Catholic, and they should be sworn enemies if they're to be seen as men at all. Yet against the odds, they become best friends, and as they find a sanctuary in the pigeon dovecote that James has built for his prize racing birds. As they fall in love, they dream of finding somewhere they belong, while Mungo works hard to hide his true self from all those around him, especially from his big brother Hamish, a local gang leader with a brutal reputation to uphold. And when several months later Mungo's mother sends him on a fishing trip to a loch in western Scotland, with 2 strange men whose drunken banter belies murky pasts, he will need to summon all his inner strength and courage to try to get back to a place of safety, a place where he and James might still have a future. The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. In 1937, in the snowbound city of Kiev, wry and bookish history student Mila Pavlinchko, it's Russian, you guys, organizes her life around her library job and her young son. But Hitler's invasion of Ukraine and Russia sends her on a different path. Given a rifle and sent to join the fight, Mila must forge herself from studious girl to a deadly sniper, yes. A lethal hunter of Nazis known as Lady Death, yes. I like that. Lady snipers killing Nazis. Sounds great, you guys. When news of her 300th kill makes her a national hero, Mila finds herself torn from the bloody battlefields of the Eastern Front and sent to America as on a goodwill tour. Still reeling from war wounds and devastated by loss, Mila finds herself isolated and lonely in the glittering world of Washington, D.C., until an unexpected friendship with First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and an even more unexpected connection with a silent fellow sniper offer the possibility of happiness. But when an old enemy from Mila's past joins forces with a deadly new foe lurking in the shadows, Lady Death finds herself battling her own demons and enemy bullets in the deadliest duel of her life. Oh my god, that sounds great, you guys. I do own this book. I own this book, but haven't read it this year yet. Trust by Hernan Diaz. Even even though the roar and effervescence, no, yes, no, even through, let me start over, even through the roar and effervescence, I can speak, guys, of the 1920s, everyone in New York has heard of Benjamin and Helen Rask. He is a legendary Wall Street tycoon. She is the brilliant daughter of eccentric aristocrats. Together, they have risen to the very top of a world of seemingly endless wealth. But the secrets around their affluence and grandeur incites gossip. Rumors about Benjamin's financial maneuvers and Helen's reclusiveness start to spread, all as a decade of excess and speculation draws to an end. At what cost have they acquired their immense fortune? Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone by Diana Gabaldon, and this is book 9 in the Outlander series. God, do I want to read the synopsis of this? I feel like, especially if you've not caught up to this point in the series, I feel like reading the synopsis is like a spoiler, you guys. I don't know. I'll just go ahead and read the synopsis. If you don't want to know what the synopsis is, since this is book 9 in the series, if you don't want to know what the synopsis is, just skip forward about a minute in this video, you guys. Jamie Fraser and Claire Randall were torn apart by the Jacobite Rising in 1746, and it took them 20 years to find each other again. Now the American Revolution threatens to do the same. It is 1779, and Claire and Jamie are at last reunited with their daughter Brianna, her husband Roger, and their children on Fraser's Ridge. Having the family together is a dream the Frasers had thought impossible. Yet even in the North Carolina backcountry, the effects of war are being felt. Tensions in the colonies are great, and local feelings run hot, enough to boil hell's tea kettle. Jamie knows loyalties among his tenants are split, and it won't be long until the war is on his doorstep. Brianna and Roger have their own worry that the dangers that provoked their escape from the 20th century might catch up with them. Sometimes they question whether risking the perils of the 1700s, among them disease, starvation, and an impending war, was indeed the safer choice for their family. Not so far away, young William Ransom is still coming to terms with the discovery of his true father's identity, and thus his own. And Lord John Grey has reconciliations to make and dangers to meet on his son's behalf and his own. Meanwhile, the Revolutionary War creeps ever closer to Fraser's Ridge, and with the family finally together, Jamie and Claire have more at stake than ever before. Yeah, that's not too spoilery. It's a little spoilery in a sense. Some of the stuff that was kind of in there, I mean, even though I'm at book 7, I just finished book 7, some of that I was expecting to happen anyway, so it's not too spoiler. For Treasures of the Sky by Jenny Tinghua Zhang. Sorry about that pronunciation, you guys. Dai-yu never wanted to be like the tragic heroine for whom she was named. Revered for her beauty and cursed with heartbreak, but when she is kidnapped and smuggled across the ocean from China to America, Dai-yu must relinquish the home and future she imagined for herself. Over the years that follow, she is forced to keep reinventing herself to survive. From a calligraphy school to a San Francisco brothel to a shop tucked into the Idaho mountains, we follow Dai-yu on a desperate quest to outrun the tragedy that chases her. As anti-Chinese sentiment sweeps across the country in a wave of unimaginable violence, Dai-yu must draw on each of the selves she has been, including the ones she most wants to leave behind, in order to finally claim her own name and story. The Passenger by Cormac McCarthy. 1980, Pass Christian, Mississippi. It is 3 in the morning when Bobby Western zips the jacket of his wetsuit and plunges from the boat deck into darkness. His dive light illuminates the sunken jet. His dive suit illuminates the sunken jet, 9 bodies still buckled in their seats, hair floating, eyes devoid of speculation. Missing from the crash site are the pilot's flight bag, the plane's black box, and the 10th passenger. Ooh, but how? A collateral witness to machinations that can only bring him harm. Western is shadowed in body and spirit by men with badges, by the ghost of his father, inventor of the bomb that melted glass and flesh in Hiroshima, and by his sister, the love and ruin of his soul. Oh my goodness, this sounds like really dramatic, you guys. The Last House on the Street by Diane Chamberlain. When Kayla Carter's husband dies in an accident while building their dream house, she knows she has to stay strong for their 4-year-old daughter. But the trophy home in Shadow Ridge Estates, a new development in sleepy Round Hill, North Carolina, will always hold tragic memories. But when she is confronted by an odd older woman telling her not to move in, she almost agrees. It's clear this woman has some kind of connection to the area, and a connection to Kayla herself. Kayla's elderly neighbor, Ellie Hockley, is more welcoming, but it's clear she too has secrets that stretch back almost 50 years. Is Ellie on a quest to right the wrongs of the past? And does the house at the end of the street hold the key? The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. Once again, this is a book that I own but have not read yet, you guys. Florence, the 1550s. Lucrezia, third daughter of the Grand Duke, is comfortable with her obscure place in the palazzo, free to wonder at its treasures, observe its clandestine workings, and to devote herself to her own artistic pursuits. But when her older sister dies on the eve of her wedding to the ruler of Ferrara, Moderna, and Reggio, Lucrezia is thrust unwittingly into the limelight. The Duke is quick to request her hand in marriage, and her father just as quick to accept on her behalf. Having barely left girlhood behind, Lucrezia must now make her way in a troubled court whose customs are opaque and where her arrival is not universally welcomed. Perhaps most mystifying of all is her new husband himself, Alfonso. Is he the playful sophisticate he appears to be before their wedding, the aesthetic happiest in the company of artists and musicians, or the ruthless politician before whom even his formidable sisters seem to tremble? As Lucrezia sits in constricting finery with a painting intended to preserve her image for centuries to come, one thing becomes worryingly clear. In the court's eyes, she has one duty: to provide the heir who will shore up the future of the Farnese dynasty. Until then, for all of her rank and nobility, the new Duchess's future hangs entirely in the balance. Yes, I do love Renaissance Italy. You guys, give it to me. And last, The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. 8 months since losing her mother in the Spanish flu outbreak of 1919, 21-year-old Lillian Carter's life has completely fallen apart. For the past 6 years, under the moniker Angelica, Lillian was one of the most sought-after artist models in New York City, with statues based on her figure, gracing landmarks from the Plaza Hotel to the Brooklyn Bridge. But with her mother gone, a grieving Lillian is rudderless and desperate. The work has dried up, and a looming scandal has left her entirely without a safe haven. So when she stumbles upon an employment opportunity at the Frick Mansion, a building that ironically bears her own visage, Lillian jumps at the chance. But the longer she works as a private secretary to the imperious and demanding Helen Frick, the daughter and heiress of industrial and art patron Henry Clay Frick, the more deeply her life gets intertwined with that of the family, pulling her into a tangled web of romantic trysts, stolen jewels, and family drama that runs so deep the stakes may be life or death. And yeah, taking place in the Gilded Age, it sounds like, you guys. Gilded Age is always so great. So you guys, that is it for all of the Goodreads nominees in the historical fiction category. You guys, let me know. Have you guys read any of these books? Do you plan on reading any of them? Like I said, I own a few, but yeah, the rest of them, a lot of them I've never even heard of, to be quite honest. So I think I'm just reading the wrong sort of historical fiction. I do not know. So you guys, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.